It's Harry Redknapp here. You're listening to a proper podcast. It's the Alan Hudson podcast. It's proper football, proper talk.
Well, hello again. Welcome back to the Alan Hudson podcast. Thanks for joining us. We've got another terrific guest lined up for you today. I'm sure you're going to enjoy plenty of anecdotes from him. But before Alan introduces him, Alan's got a few words to say about subscriptions. So over to you, Alan.
Well, if you haven't subscribed, just go onto YouTube and do what you have to do to keep the show going, so we can get people like my friend here on, and because you don't know what you're missing, to be perfectly honest. And we'll go into the show now. Morning, Al.
Morning, Al.
I mean, this better be good this morning, because I've never woken up at 6 o'clock in the morning for anybody.
You probably got in at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Well, just in case anyone doesn't realise who we're talking to today, because we've got John Hayes' moniker at the bottom of the screen. It is, of course, Alan Curbishley. And it's great to have you on, Alan.
Well, no, John's my technical man. We had a bit of a problem, didn't we, the other day? So I'm playing golf with John today. And Matty Godden, actually, centre forward from Charlton. And Steve Brown, the old centre-half in my teams. And John's our technical man. So it's his laptop and he's organised it all.
Well done, John.
Well done, John.
I'd like to get him on.
And Al, he's organised breakfast as well, which is downstairs waiting for me.
Well, you take your time. You take your time.
So, did you two ever lock horns in midfield?
No.
I don't think so. I was thinking about it the other day, and I made my debut against Chelsea in 1975. Lost 1-0 at home to Chelsea at Upton Park. Mickey Joy scored. So I don't know if that was your era, or you might have just left.
No, I'd just gone out that year.
Yeah.
But you must have played against him in his days at Stoke.
No.
Yeah, would have played. No, when I was at Birmingham and that. No.
He'd have
remembered me. He'd have remembered me.
I'd remember you. I played with you once on a Sunday. Can you remember?
No, go on.
Yeah, for a game for my mate Johnny Westwood, who's trying to fix me and you, Harry, get me and you and young old Frank together. John Westwood put a game over the East London Stadium.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah.
A charity thing, and it was a Sunday. We all had a drink and all that. It was good fun, good stuff. But I think the most important thing is, if someone said to me, Alan Curbishley, it's the big question, and the big question of the day is, why did you pack up so early in management?
Yeah, that's an interesting. I'll tell you what happened, Al. Obviously, I had a court case going on with West Ham. It was all kicking off there. I got in there, and I was in the bottom three. We managed to stay up last game of the season. The following season, we finished 10th. We just started the new season, and we'd only played 4 games, but we was in the top 6. And the financial crisis hit, 2008, and the club come under pressure, or the owners come under pressure. Icelandic banks were, asking for their money back, etc. And so they sort of left, and it was in limbo. And basically what happened, players were being told they could leave the club because, they needed the money. But I didn't know anything about it, about it. And one of the players, my last game was at home to Blackburn, beat Blackburn 4-1. And when I went upstairs, I was told that George McCartney was signing for Sunderland. I didn't even know George McCartney was up at Sunderland having a medical. I didn't know anything about it. I was under the impression George McCartney was injured. So I felt that I wasn't no longer in charge. I got two regrets, Al. I left West Ham too early when I played, because I went off to Birmingham and played my best football, actually, at Birmingham. And I left the club too early when I was the manager. I should have toughed it out on both occasions.
Well,
and then, in all fairness, if you look at my generation of managers, the Stevie Bruce's, who's back in now, Sam Allardyce, Moisey, who's back in. you know, when they left their jobs, they sort of got back in quickly and was prepared to move all around the country. I was perhaps a little bit choosy, being a bit picky, and you know, suddenly you're out a year, then you're out a little bit longer, and then you have new sporting directors turn up, or you know, whatever, new chairman, and you're sort of out of the picture. And you know, after a couple of years, the offers dried up. I mean, I did have a few offers, I must admit, but yeah, after a couple of years, they dry up, and you know, you're out of it. And that's exactly what happened to me. And Fergie kept warning me about that. Alex kept warning me, saying, "You got to get back in. You got to get back in." And I didn't.
Those are the meetings I was talking about, you and Fergie, when I thought he was trying to tap you up. Yeah. No, I really did. I truly believe that when I was seeing you, and it sticks in my mind. And when I was telling someone the other day, my friend was sitting here, he's Manchester United supporter, big Irish lad, Mickey Effernan, lovely man. Anyway, I remember you telling me that once. I said, yeah, well, what do you think? I'll make it up? You know, these people around here. And I said, yeah, every time I was at, what was it, Grosvenor or Dorchester or whatever, the dinners, you know. And I was watching you thinking, I didn't really know you then, so I was going to give you a tug and say, look, can I have a bet? You know, because I like a bet. But anyway, going back to
Sorry, Al, can you just explain what you mean by that? I mean, what was the connection between Alan and Alex?
Well, these were just that if you've been to the football writers or whatever. It was a
Lord off Robbins, Al. It was the music dinner, Lord off Robbins.
Well, that one. No, this was on about 3 occasions, Al.
Yeah.
2 or 3. This was just not the once, so I wouldn't have thought nothing of it, because I was standing with him at the bar one night, Mick McGovern, and I was watching you, and that was a different night. And 3 nights in about 9 months, something like that. And I thought these two are up to something. You're like, I really did. Because I thought you'd have been the perfect Manchester United manager.
Well, I'm on the league managers committee with Fergie, so I've known him obviously for a long, long while. And yeah, I mean, I'm not too sure about Man U, but obviously, I think I was in a lot of equations, not other clubs. And I did talk to other clubs when I left West Ham. Once I got myself sorted out, and I just didn't feel I was up. I don't know if I was holding out for what I thought was going to be the perfect job, but I was, I didn't want to go into a club that had 15 games left and was in the bottom 3, which is what I got offered on a few occasions. I wanted to go into a club at the start of the season where I could, give it a go, if you know what I mean. And so suddenly a year becomes 18.
You don't get that as a player though when you move. Do you? You go in. When they want you, you go in, don't you?
That's it. Yeah, but I think because I thought I'd done my apprenticeship. I'd done 16 years at Charlton and I'd done a couple of years at West Ham. So I thought I was ready for perhaps the next step, and I was getting offered stuff that perhaps I didn't think was right. And then suddenly, as I said, you're out for a couple of years, and then suddenly you're out. And
do you ever regret doing it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think I do regret that. I could have jumped back in on several occasions. As I said, my generation, the Moises, the Bruces, the Allardyces, that's what they did. They jumped back in and then continued and then moved on again and whatever. But I regret leaving West Ham too early as a player, and I regret leaving West Ham too early as the manager.
Yeah.
Alan, can I ask you? I mean, West Ham was obviously your boyhood club, and you started off your playing career there with the court case and everything that transpired when you were the manager. Does that sour your thoughts of the club now?
No, it was just that I found myself in a really difficult situation where I wasn't in charge of the playing side anymore, and players were being offered by the club was offering agents to tell their players was available, that they could go out and talk to clubs, and I didn't know, so I just felt that it was untenable, and the players knew that I wasn't. The players knew that I wasn't in charge anymore of that side of the situation. So yeah, I do regret it, and you know, I could have gone to West Ham on a couple of occasions before I went there, but then when I did go there, I thought it was the right time. But then I did walk into the Tevez Mascherano situation as well, which I knew nothing about when I went into the club. So yeah, it was quite an interesting time, the couple of years out there.
Remind us what the Tevez Mascherano situation was.
Well, I went into the club, and the players was already at the club. But the problem was there was a third-party ownership situation, which was, you know, not allowed in the Premier League. It was allowed in other European countries, but not in the Premier League. And as I say, I walked into that. I had nothing to do with the signings, but then inherited it. So, you know, we allowed Mascherano to go to Liverpool, which I still wonder how that happened. Mascherano went to Liverpool, and obviously Tevez stayed, and we ended up staying up, and Carlos scored the winning goal at Old Trafford. And then Sheffield United and other clubs, obviously, who got relegated, were very unhappy with the situation. And in the end, I think West Ham got fined 25 million. And there was a situation where we might have got deducted points. But as I said, it was all something done before I got there. So it was something I didn't even know anything about. And this third-party ownership, which goes on in Europe, wasn't allowed in the Premier League, and still isn't. So it's an interesting situation.
But how did they get away with it?
Well, because
how did it happen? If it
I don't know,
wasn't
because it's something new. I think the two players that came in was more owned by an agent than the club where they come from. And as I say, in Europe, that's not outlawed, or wasn't outlawed at the time. So Real Madrid and Barcelona and Inter Milan, etc., they could buy Tevez and Mascherano.
Yeah.
You couldn't buy them in the Premier League. And, you know, that was something I inherited and didn't know anything about when I walked in there.
Apart from the politics side of that situation, what were they like as players to have under your auspices?
Well, it was interesting. Both of them weren't playing. Both of them wasn't playing. Alan Pardew was the manager. And I think Tevez had a couple of games. And I called both of them in. I had to have an interpreter. So I've called them both in and said, like, what would you like to do? You know, I'm the new manager. And Carlos, to be fair, said he wanted to stay. And Mascherano said he wanted to leave. And Mascherano hadn't been playing at all, I think. At least Carlos had been playing in some of the games. And, you know, then suddenly Liverpool came in for Mascherano. And in some ways, it was a situation where another club was going to be in the same position as us. We fought. And so he went off to Liverpool, and we got criticised for that, allowing him to go to Liverpool. But we couldn't work out how he could, because we was in trouble because we had him. But obviously he went off to Liverpool and then done fantastically well, went to Barcelona, etc. Tevez, in the other hand, went off to Man U, then Man City. So, you know, tell me what the difference is.
Yeah. So you walked into that. So
yeah, but you know, it was a situation that I walked into. It's funny how, you know, you're talking about Fergie. My first game as manager for West Ham was at home to Man United, and we beat them. And then we beat them on the last game of the season. So I'd done the double over him that year. Right, the wine tasted a lot better after them two games than it normally does when you're with Fergie.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about what you're up to now with the League Managers Association.
Well, I'm on the committee with Alec, and Sam's on there, Moyes is on there. You know, senior managers, if you like, where we do our best to try and help the younger managers coming through. You know, we set up coaching courses, we mentor. If anybody feels that they need to talk to someone, you know, especially the younger managers or the first-time managers that walk into something that they've not done before, and they come under all sorts of pressures. So the league managers are there to look after them legally, their contracts, especially when they've been sacked, because it's not nice. yeah, we've been on it for some time, and we have regular meeting up at St George's Park. As I say, we're involved in the legal side of it for the managers, the coaching side of it for the managers, and whatever else we can do.
Excellent. Maybe we can get, you touched upon Charlton earlier, 16 years at Charlton. I mean, and I'm sure they're the team that you're heavily involved with now, aren't they?
Well, yeah, I'm with a big sponsor that, John, whose laptop this is, he's the sponsor over at the club.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was told the other day I'm the longest serving ever first-time manager. When I went in there, what's happening now, I think the longevity of a first-time manager is perhaps a year or 18 months or 2 years, their first job. But obviously I was there for 16 years. But I was involved in something that was happening. We had no ground when I went there as manager. We was playing at Upton Park. Then we got back to the Valley. We was playing to two sides. Then we eventually built a stand. Then we built another stand. Then we got in the Premier League. It was an evolving thing, and everybody was connected. And I was asked recently by a manager who's just got promoted into the Premier League, what did you do? Like, suddenly you got all this money coming in. And what we did at Charlton, we spent a third of the money. We spent a third of the money on the stadium, and we kept a third of the money for a rainy day. And what happened, unfortunately, we got relegated on the last game of the season. But because we wasn't financially in trouble, we could keep the team together, and we won promotion straight back up. Whereas when you see teams now going up and coming straight back down, they have to start selling players, straight like Ipswich have sold Delap and blah blah, because of the financial situation. Because suddenly you're not getting all that money in again. So we had a plan, and in all fairness, we got relegated, and the chairman gave me a new contract, a longer contract to say, come on, let's go again, which is what we did, So we was all in the thing together at the club, the fans, the players understood it, and so did the board. So, so the club is where they're at the moment. They're a Premier League club in the Championship, like so many clubs at the moment.
Well, it was funny the other day when I was going to send you a message. I was just going to send you a message, good luck, and there you are, sitting at Wembley, and I thought, well, it must still be,
I got told off after that, Al. I went out after that. The players all went into, there was like a big fan zone place next to Wembley called the Box Park or something. So I've ended up getting invited in there and whatever. Then, who knows? Got home a bit late, got told off, as you do, but it was a good day.
Tell us a bit about the end of your time as manager at Charlton, because you've done it. We spoke about this earlier in the week. I think you've done such a great job. You made them a permanent fixture in the Premier League, but yet the longer you were there, the more the fans. Tell me if I'm wrong, but it seems as though the more the fans wanted some sort of change, and that was unfair. I'm
not so much that. I think we attracted fans that have only seen a team in the Premier League, if you like. When we first went back to the Valley, we was playing in front of 5,000 or 6,000. Then suddenly, as we started progressing and built the stadium, it's suddenly 15, 20, and then 28, 29, which is what it is now. And I think some of the fans that probably, I don't know if they was disappointed. I don't know. I mean, finishing in the top 10, I don't know if you're disappointed. But what happened basically is I had 1 year left on my contract, and the chairman, who I'd been with for 16, well, not 16 years, but for more like 12, he wanted me to extend it and sign. I wanted to leave it as it was, and I wanted to, let it run out so I had different options in the summer. He was saying, well, how can you then, you want to sign players on 3 or 4 year contracts, and you've only got a year. It doesn't fit well, which I understood, but I didn't think that the players would be that concerned. And as the discussions went on, it worked out that I was going to leave, and it was all amicable. It wasn't that we'd had a big bust up and whatever. It just evolved that, well, perhaps if you're going to let your contract run out, you're obviously looking to perhaps move on when it runs out. Why don't we? I need to do something now. So we left amicably. It wasn't as if we'd had a big bust up, and then we all moved on. And 6 months later, I got offered the West Ham job, and that's how it
Well,
happened.
it reminds me, when you told it reminds me a little bit of my life, when you come out of one problem, which is a big problem. What you've gone through the valley is unbelievable, changing ground and then playing, playing no ground with one side and two sides, and then you leave there and you think, oh, West Ham, and you walk into the Tevez and
Yeah.
the Tevez situation. So you must think, West Ham. I know. I used to go to the West. I used to go to West Ham a lot when I was in hospital over that way, and so I was in Seattle with Harry. That's how we know each other
All
so
right.
well. But I used to go to West Ham a lot when I was in hospital over there. And if you used to even go on match days and go back in hospital on the Saturday night,
Yeah. It's in my land. Yeah.
in Milan. And I tell you what, I would be in the bar after with Harry and the other managers and whoever, and I thought, Harry, we know he's a bundle of nerves. He's a bundle of nerves, and and he was coming after the game, and you'd think he'd had the whole world on his shoulders.
Yeah.
So, that's the way Harry was. But you think, well, get out. Just get out.
The fans are a little bit demanding.
Well, they are demanding. They're demanded everywhere, but what fans are like. I mean, what you I think anyway. That's I've always mentioned your name, and I say, well, what a job at Charlton! What a job you've done! It was. I mean, Tony said to me earlier. It was similar to along the lines what Pulis done at Stoke. But without playing, without having the players or the kind of the brand of football that you played. You had some good players.
No, we done. We signed players that come into the club out at Charlton, and they understood where we come from and what was needed. And we prided ourselves on whoever come to the Valley had a tough game. And we done the double over Arsenal, done the double over Liverpool. Charlton. So they knew they was in for a game when they played. And as we evolved and we signed better players, that's when probably the expectation. When I say better players, perhaps bigger names. And that's when perhaps the expectation level went a little bit too high, and finishing say 12th or 13th wasn't good enough. But no, I see it now when I go to the ground. I take my grandson over there, and you've got new owners. We've had new owners for the last 10 years. Different people have been coming in. But this set of owners, we think we've got some good owners now. And they're back in the manager, they're back in Nathan Jones. The fans have got behind it. And, they're playing in the Championship next year. They'll probably sell out most weeks in the Championship with the quality of teams they're playing and the away fans. And, it looks as if it's back on the up, which is great.
Well, I wouldn't build your hopes up too much. Because I was at Stoke when Nathan, I was not playing for Stoke, but I remember Nathan Jones having Stoke, and
it was one of his best. It's quite interesting his career because Luton done fantastically well, went off to Stoke, not so well.
Yeah.
Went back to Luton, done fantastically well, went off to Southampton, not so well. He's gone to Charlton, done fantastically well. So hopefully he can do it in the Championship.
Yeah. I'm glad. I must ask you about a certain player because we're having him on next week. Did you have it? I'd like to think he played for you, but I don't think he did. Ricardo Fuller?
No.
Did you see him?
No.
Never see him in Charlton?
Not really, no. Trying to remember.
Where were you? Where were you?
I was probably on the missing list. But no, I think what we did when we signed players out, they knew that if they come in and done well, they could move on. you know, like the Darren Bents and one or two others that came in. They knew that if they done really well, and a big club like Danny Mills come in from Norwich reserves and then went off to Leeds and played in Champions League, they knew that it was a stepping stone if they done well. And we was going to give them the opportunity, and within reason, we wouldn't stand in their way if a bigger club came in. So that's the way we operated. And you know, sometimes it backfired. You know, players left what I didn't really want them to leave, but that's what we did to attract them.
Yeah. Well, you know, the sun don't always shine, does it? Yeah, that happens. But I mean, overall, on the long term, I mean, I went to the Valley a couple of times. I went there when you played Chelsea one day, and you know, they couldn't handle you. You know?
Well, that was one of the turning points, because Ranieri was in charge of Chelsea, and we beat Chelsea 4-2 on Boxing Day.
I think I might have been there
to go fourth in the Premier League, and then 2 days later they bid for Scott Parker and derailed us completely, if you know what I mean.
Really?
You know, because obviously I didn't want Scott to go. I'd had him since he was a schoolboy. You know, we knew in the end we couldn't stop it. You know, it was a big move for him, and he wanted to go, and etc. But we was in such a fantastic position, and it's just what we didn't need. And
but for the money, you're a clever, you're a good football man. You know your stuff. But for the kind of money you got for him, there was players.
Well, that was the problem. They only offered us 6 million.
All right.
They offered us 6 million, and we said, "Hold on, you pay 6 million for Glenn Johnson. I'm not being disrespectful. You pay 6 million." So we wanted 12.
Yeah.
You know, and we started off at 15, and then we end up getting to a figure that we felt wasn't what we wanted, but we had to be fair to Scott and allow him to go. But it took a couple of weeks, and in that time, me and Scott fell out a little bit. We're all right now, but we fell out a little bit. And it wasn't down to me. The club was demanding a bigger transfer fee. But, you know, when you are on the receiving end of that, if it had happened in the summer, it wouldn't perhaps been the biggest problem. But when you're fourth in the Premier League, you think you've got a chance of getting in Europe, it derailed us a bit. But, you know, that is football.
Yeah.
Alan, you mentioned that Chelsea game. I was there. I'm a big Chelsea fan. And am I right in thinking Paolo Di Canio was the star of the show in that game?
He played, yeah. And in all fairness, Di Canio came to see me and said, "You've got to let Scott go." I went, "I know that. I ain't got a problem. You know, I don't want to, but I know that, you know, it's a move we can't stop him doing. But they've only offered us X amount of money, you know." So I think everybody, Matty Holland was the captain. He came to see me and said, like, you know.
But why did Paulo want him to go?
No, he wanted him. He said it's only fair. He said what he's done for the club and a big, you know, Chelsea in Europe.
None of his business, is it?
Well, not really, because it was affecting everybody. You know, he's such a nice boy, Scott. You know, but you know, I signed Paolo on a free transfer from West Ham, and you know, I was a bit concerned, I must admit. You know, what happened was the free transfer list came through, and Paolo was on it, 34. And I'm thinking, you know, we're old Charlton, you know, do we need spicing up a little bit? You know, I saw where he lived, and he lived about 5 miles away from me. So I drove around to his house, and he had the gates and everything else. So I put a little note in his post box saying, "Look, if you want to have a chat, here's my number. I see you a free transfer. I'm interested." And then 2 days later, him and his agent phoned me up. We went round there and met him and done the deal. And he came in. And his claim to fame is that Charlton finished 7th. We were 4th, but we ended up finishing 7th. And Paolo was influential in Charlton finishing in their highest ever position in the Premier League. You know, he really enjoyed his year with us. And Lazio came in for him. And as he said to me, Lazio's Paolo's club, and Paolo's got to go. I went, okay. You know, you're 35, but he done fantastic for us. And I'll tell you what he did. He was so good in training now, like the way he conducted himself physically. You know, and all the young lads like Parker, Konchesky and whatever, all looking at him. Colton Cole we had on loan from Chelsea, big part of the Parker deal. They were just looking at Paolo, the way he conducted himself and the way he trained. And, you know, I think that he knew that he was in that position, that he could influence people. I think he really enjoyed it. And, you know, when he went on to manage Swindon and Sunderland and whatever, he realised how difficult it was being me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, you've got to have a. I mean, he's someone I always. A show don't go without me mentioning Waddington, but he would have just loved Di Canio in his team. You know, I mean, who would not? You know, and it's.
Well, he done something. He done something in a game. Al, we're playing Arsenal. Oh, by the way, we beat them 2-1. Wenger. We're playing Arsenal at the Valley, and we got a penalty. And Lehman was in goal. I think it was Lehman. And I don't think any Charlton fan had ever seen it before. He chipped the goalie.
Yeah.
He chipped the goalie.
And he was 6'2".
Yeah. So the goalie's dived and he's just put it down the middle. Do you know what I mean? Just dinked it over him. And I don't think any other Charlton player, past or present, would have done it. Do you know what I mean? But Paolo done it. And I'm sitting there. He shouldn't have been taking it. He stole the ball off of Matty Holland. Matty Holland was the penalty taker. And he stole the ball. And so I'm thinking, you better effing score this, because if you don't score this, this is going to be a row. And then he comes up and dinks the goalie. Like, you know what I mean? No Charlton, no disrespect, but I can't imagine a Charlton player doing it, past or present. So yeah,
so that's what the fans get. You get praise.
Yeah.
I mean, I see him at West Ham, and I've no doubt, you know, he's.
Well, they still talk. Everyone at Charlton still talks about him, but obviously so do West Ham.
Oh, West Ham.
Paolo. And you know, he's come back a couple of times, and when he goes on the pitch, it's just like bonkers.
There's no doubt wherever I've been since I've started the game 68. He's in the top 3 players, the greatest players ever to come grace England. I mean, to have him in your team and get him on free. I mean, if you imagine having him when he was 25 and he was
34. It was 34.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
He was 34, and when he came into training, I had to pull him and say, I think you're training too hard.
Yeah.
You know, I had to tell him that, you know, he's training afterwards and doing, no, I'm all right. No, Paolo. Like, you know,
yeah.
Big game on Saturday. Can't, you know, you're doing a bit too much. But he was a fantastic influence on the players.
Yes. So he'd have been your greatest signing there. Obviously, as a player.
Yes, no, but
greatest talent. He's got to be the greatest talent ever played for Charlton.
If I had have got him, well, I perhaps couldn't have handled him if I'd have got him 5 years earlier. But I'd love to have got him 5 years earlier.
That's what I'm saying.
Because of not just what he'd done on the pitch, but who he would have attracted to the club.
Yeah.
Another side of him, you know, if you've got someone like him in your side, who else would want to come? You know, seeing Paolo playing for you. So I would have liked to have got him when he was a bit younger, but I think he'd have been a handful.
What a handful though. What a you know, that's basically, you know, football's all about entertainment. It's all about, you know, we're talking about before you come on air, you know, this is what's golf all about, getting up 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm glad I never played it. But football entertainment is all about people like Paolo Di Canio.
Yeah, but also, if he's got the respect to the players, Al, and the manager, then he's allowed to be a little bit more extrovert. You know, it's when they're that way inclined and they're not producing, that's when you get the problem.
Well,
he produced.
We wouldn't be talking about him if he didn't produce.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, and at the times I see him at West Ham, it was breathtaking. He was just.
No. My favourite thing with him was, boss. I'm Paolo Di Canio. I can do that. boss. He always spoke in the third person. You know.
Yeah.
Boss. Why does Paolo have to do this? Paolo likes to do that. You know? Paolo, you don't like flying because he wouldn't fly. He hated flying, right? And everyone connected with West Ham were telling me that, you know, he wouldn't get on the small plane to fly to Manchester and whatever. And the first away trip was Blackburn away for Charlton. and he was at the back of the plane holding everybody's hand and making a noise. I think, I don't need this like, every time we fly away. But apparently in West Ham he used to drive to the away games, right? Because he didn't want to get on the plane. But funny enough, when he wanted to go back to Milan, it wasn't a problem. You know, he could get on that plane. So I pulled him one day. I went, how comes that, you know, when you want to go back home, you go back home, it ain't a problem. Boss, it's a big, big plane. It's a big plane. Right? I said, so you want me to hire us a
big plane,
300-seater plane so you're comfortable? Yeah.
But he's a big player.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be my claim to fame. Managing him and getting the best out of him would be quite something else, you know. Because, you know, football today is everything that football is lacking.
And I think the players first. It was the players when he came in and see the way he trained. They went, oh, we weren't expecting that. You know what I mean? We was expecting like perhaps he don't want to do the running, perhaps he don't want to do the weight. You know, he don't want to do all the hard stuff. But he was full on, and then talking to players. You should be doing this. You should be doing that. Why don't you do this? What have you thought about doing that? So it was a really big influence, you know. So I've got a lot of time for him.
Yeah, well, he done great for you, didn't he? And you're forever grateful. But that's, as I say, you know, if you watch a modern day game today, and you think,
there's not many of them now,
and you think, well, there's none.
Yeah, it's been took out of them.
There is absolutely no. Yeah. There are no. I watched again last night. Bayern Munich played, and there are nobody. They can't control the. No one can control the ball properly anyway. But they can't. Their first touch is just whoa. You know, you think you're watching you forget this is a World Cup club championship.
Yeah.
You know,
I've not been watching it now because I just think, you know what, pre-season is so important.
Yeah,
so important, and I don't think you can be derailed the way these clubs are being derailed, playing so far away in heat, etc. When you have the pre-season, it's when you want to instill what you want going forward. But when you're playing in these sort of tournaments, changing the team constantly to give everyone a bit of fitness and etc., it's not the right build-up.
Well, no, it's not. But you have to understand. I'm sure you do, as everybody do. Is logic now. The football's become now. My friend Don Shanks said to me the other day about playing now. He said, I would go down with some kind of illness they couldn't detect. I wouldn't play in these competitions. I said, Donald, look, when we play, that this is the greatest thing for a footballer. It may not be for a manager, but the greatest thing for a footballer, for what's happening in football at the moment, to play all year round. Give them a couple of weeks off here and there. Say, no, you've had enough. Go away on holiday, whatever, blah, blah, you know, and then get rather than have a team holiday or whatever. No training, all this. But this is the greatest thing. Now I'm talking about from my day, from you. I don't know, it might be a little bit different, but probably the same as yours. When you finish in May after the cup final, and you come back June, July. You've had 10 weeks. You've had 10 weeks off of enjoying yourself down the King's Road, and you got pre-season. My God, pre-season was like. I mean, I was in hospital. I've had about 60 operations. I mean, but I love going in the operating theatre. Probably that's because to get away from pre-season. I don't know, but the pain I went through in pre-season, I'd have done anything in football.
Yeah.
But to keep fit all year round, you didn't. And I remember as a 17-year-old saying, I wonder when they're going to come up with some wonder drug pill that would give you it, and that's your pre-season pill, you know, and you're fit, you know, because getting
it has changed a lot. It has changed a lot. Where our pre-seasons, where you're running up hills and you're being flogged, if you like, for having like 6 or 7 weeks off. It's more methodical now. That pre-season is totally different now in terms of the running, and the players, to be fair, don't go off to Marbella for 3 weeks. they look after themselves in the close season, and they generally come back, fit. But the pre-season now is not like our pre-seasons. At West Ham, we used to run around Epping Forest forever. Do you know what I mean? Chasing Billy Bonds, chasing Bill because he was the fittest person. But now it's more tailored. It's they're all given programs. They're all given these belts to wear, so the fitness coaches can work out where they're at, even if they're not in the building. They can tell by someone having a run in a park how fit they are. So it's totally changed. I mean, I'm like you. Running pre-season was something that you really didn't like, but it's changed. It's changed completely now.
Alan, can I just? I know you're due on the golf course soon, so we're going to have to let you go. But there were a few occasions in your managerial career where you were linked with England. Was it a job you ever came close to getting?
I went on the interviews when Steve McClaren got it. I was in that group of managers, and I went on the interviews, and I had a problem because I had an FA Cup replay, and it was the same day they wanted to interview everybody. So when the FA was interviewing the other people, it was in a stately home somewhere in the middle in Oxford, but I couldn't make it because I had an FA Cup replay. So I ended up having my interview in the FA, at the headquarters in town, and with Brian Barwick and whatever. And then I had a second interview where we actually went to my brother's house, and unfortunately it got out, and suddenly there was a picture somewhere of me coming out of the house with Brian Barwick, head of the FA. So that it got out, and the chairman knew, obviously, but no one else really knew that I spoke to him. So it became a little bit of a thing. But no, I did get interviewed, and that's when they gave it to Steve. And I think Steve got the nod because he'd been at Man U and he'd been managing big players, if you like. And obviously, going into the England setup, you'd be managing big players. But it's something that I enjoyed the interviews. I understood what they was after and the way it was going to be conducted. The way the job is. You suddenly have a full-on couple of weeks, then you have a couple of months off, then you have a full-on couple of weeks. But in between that, you've got to make sure you do the right thing, going to see as many players as you can. So yeah, it was something.
Would you really, really love that job?
I don't think I was ready for it, Al. In all fairness, but I think because I was looking at English managers to be the England manager, perhaps it was only 4 or 5 of us at the time. But I didn't think I was ready. But I enjoyed the experience of and understanding what it meant. So
yeah, you'd have been my choice, mate. you would have. I thought what you've done with Charlton was exceptional, and people don't know what it takes, these, especially we have fallings out with football fans, but they don't really know what goes on. I mean, what you just told, and I think what happened to me was, what opened my eyes was going to Stoke, and the manager there was that good, and it wasn't because he was that good. It was because nobody appreciated him and nobody really liked him. And I loved him. And he's one of the nicest fellas, nicest man I've ever met. He was one that I would run forever for.
Yeah.
One of those.
I look at what I went for. I think Ron Greenwood obviously went on to be England manager, but Ron Greenwood and John Lyall were fantastic coaches. Yeah, every training session was great and informative. And I always remember Ron Greenwood saying to us as kids, "We're going to give you the best education we can, and we'd like and hope that you come through and play for West Ham. But if you don't, we'd like and hope you come through and play for someone else and become a footballer." And that was their philosophy. And I think John Lyall and Ron Greenwood could have done a Bobby Robson, a Terry Venables. They could have gone off and managed abroad without a problem because they were coaches, great coaches. Then I had Jimmy Smith, who was a man manager, and he he was tough. Some of the things he said, your mental health, you could have had a problem if you'd have took it all in. But Jimmy was a great motivator and a man manager. Then I had Ron Saunders, and I realised why Aston Villa had won the league, because he was totally different to anything I'd had. You do it my way, or you're out. That's as simple as that, you know. So as I went along, you pick things off of other people. And and as I say, the Ron Greenwood and John Lyle, it was a fantastic upbringing. You go into training and you just enjoyed every minute of it. You know, that's how it was. And you know, so as you become a manager, obviously you've got to get things across. Everything ain't going to be nice and rosy, but try and make it as enjoyable as you can.
What do you? I mean, my son's a coach. Been coaching. He's coached the US.
I met your son out in Doha a couple of times, didn't I? When he was in New Zealand. When he was New Zealand.
Yeah. Well, he's now, you know, manager bloody whatever. And I've always had this conversation with him, coaching our management.
Here's me, technical man.
Breakfast, technical.
He'd do anything to get his boat on our podcast, wouldn't he?
We're out in 20 minutes.
Yeah. He just wants to mention Charlton.
I was going to say, what was your? Do you think you was a better coach or a better manager or a bit of both?
To be fair, I've done a bit of both, especially when we first took over, me and Stevie Grit, and when I first took over at Charlton, was a bit of both. And then when we got into the Premier League, the whole thing was just too much. You know, the job, which I don't think people appreciate, like the amount of time it takes dealing with your manager, dealing with this one, trying to get players on transfers. You know, sorting things out is so time consuming now. So then I brought in a couple of good coaches. I brought Mervyn Day in, who was a manager in his own right, up at Carlisle and whatever. So he understood that side of it. And then when I went up to the FA to do my coaching badge, there was a great coach up there called Les Reed, and I snatched him from the FA and I got him in. He's now actually running the whole thing at Wrexham. Oh, really? He's a technical director at Wrexham, and he was a really good coach. So I knew that if I gave Mervyn or Les the opportunity to coach, the players would respect it. You know what it's like as a player. If a coach comes in and goes, right, we're doing this, and the session breaks down, first thing the players go is, you know, he's no good, whatever. So I made sure that the two coaches I brought in done a great job for me.
Yeah, but that's important, isn't it? I mean, that's a problem when our Chelsea team fell apart. You know, they tried to do both things, and he couldn't.
It's too time consuming for that.
Well, even before that, Al, you know, you just couldn't do it. It's a job for two men, you know. But that's another thing. Look, have your breakfast. We'll do another show. No, because you know you go.
Well, I can't work out how my technical man can get you on, and I couldn't. So that's really bugged me. That the other day I was doing everything I should be doing, but I couldn't get it to work. But I am in a dodgy Essex area.
The other day was yesterday. Go on. What was you doing? What did your technical man do that you didn't?
I don't know. He probably pressed the right button. or I like to think you've pressed the right button. And it wasn't my fault. It was your fault.
To be perfectly honest, mate, I'm not the brightest animal there's ever. You know,
I was going to blame you. Let me tell you. But next time I'm going away with Keith Burchin next week.
Oh, you told me.
Yeah. So
listen, we still got a date on. You know.
Yeah.
My mate Johnny Westwood, Frank Lampard Senior.
At his pub.
Well, we're gonna have a 2 legs, home and away.
What? Well, yeah, one at
no, that place is gone.
Is it that train station?
Yeah,
what was it?
Fulham Broadway.
Fulham Broadway, next to the Chelsea ground. Yeah.
But they're opening a new one in July, so we'll have first leg. No, we got the Clarence now. My mate's got the Clarence. We'll have the first leg in Lampard,
in the Nightingale,
and the second leg in the Clarence.
Okay.
Home and away.
I'm stronger in the second leg.
I'm Di Canio, mate. I'm gonna wear my Paolo Di Canio shirt over there.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, so that's a deal. We got a deal.
Right.
Give my love to Keith.
Will do.
Tell him he can come down and play on either side he wants.
Yeah. He can't drink though, Al. He's
No
a
more.
lightweight.
I know.
I know. So he's no good. We'll have to sub him.
He's a Brummie, mate. He's a Brummie.
Okay.
So anyway, have a great holiday.
All right. We'll speak to you later.
We'll talk. We'll do another show because we know your mind's elsewhere. Keep looking over at the golfers and all that. And, oh, they birds over there. You birds, women playing today?
Oh. No, I don't think there's many out there today.
Well, what woman's going to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and go out and play golf?
I know. Crazy.
Great having you on, Al.
Bye,
Great to
mate.
see you.
Thank you.
Thanks
Have
a
a
lot.
great day, and we'll talk.
Bye.
Good luck, mate.